Why were we here? It was a question that many must have asked in silence when they marched into the muddied wasteland of a rural town. What was once a rural town, at least. Now it was a mud plain scattered with dead trees and dead-looking frames of destroyed houses. The Great War, they called it. All of them stranded in this hellscape, hope that in the future we'll all wonder whether that name was accurate. All the screams, all the bloodshed, the corpses they saw of people being rained on by incoming bullets, lying mutilated by poison gas and explosions. All they could do was wish that it really was the war to end all wars before they died too. Even if they didn't, a part of them would still be lost with the rest of the ghosts in these trenches. World War One was a conflict that brought chaos upon the entire world. Soldiers were not expected to survive. But the madness of the war was a ground for acts of valor and acts of bravery. Soldiers helping others, going great lengths to help them survive. In the chaos of the war we saw heroes rise. Here our spotlight shines on a regiment that not only proved its heroicness, but proved heroicness farther than all others with its sacrifices. Here the spotlight shines on the 369th Regiment, better known as the Harlem Hellfighters. The 369th Infantry Regiment was organized on June 29th, 1916 in New York and called into federal service in 1917 at Camp Whitman. After training at the camp, the battalions were spread around the state to guard construction sites and rail lines. Later that year, the 369th was sent to a camp in South Carolina for military training. After being relocated to the camp named Camp Wadsworth, the regiment was subjected to severe amounts of racist tendencies from others in the town. One time a lieutenant and another soldier were refused service by a hotel owner when they tried to buy a newspaper. The African American regiment was helped by some soldiers from their fellow New York regiment, the 27th Division, which was a National Guard division. The lieutenant of the 369th told the 27th Division soldiers to leave before an act of violence started. By 1918, the United States Army decided to send them to France because most white American soldiers refused to work with African Americans. Their uniforms were still those of the U.S., but had French weapons, pouches, helmets, and belts. A colonel of the American Expeditionary Forces wrote a pamphlet trying to convince the French civilian authorities that African Americans had an inferior nature and racist tendencies. In France, however, people welcomed the 369th and did not have any racial bias. A notable thing that happened in the 369th were the actions of a soldier private named Henry Johnson. He fought off a raid by Germany on the Oregon forest, killing many soldiers and rescuing a friendly soldier. Private Johnson was awarded the Medal of Honor by Barack Obama way in 2015. Over 100 men received American or French medals, and Johnson was the first American to receive the Croix de Guerre. They were given the name Hellfighters by Germany. The Hellfighters suffered more losses than any other American unit, and were deployed for 191 days, which is also longer than any other. Their endurance is truly remarkable in the uncertain times of this chaotic war. Not only have they withstood racial discrimination and being sent away from their country because of it, but they have demonstrated valor and endurance throughout the First World War.